Hello Markham Gardens family, Daniel Markham here with the Markham Gardens. Guys, today I am standing here in our orchard with all of the fruit trees, and you guys can see they have no leaves on them, right? So right here we've got a peach tree, and guys, right now this time of year when they've got no leaves on them, we're coming into spring, but they haven't quite woke up yet. This is the time, guys, that you want to start doing your pruning on all of your trees. You want to do that before they wake up, before the saps get to flowing, before the trees start really trying to put out growth. That way it can focus on the areas that you've left for it to grow, guys. And so what we're going to do, guys, is I'm going to walk you through the process of pruning all of these that you see all the way around here. We're going to go ahead and cover apricot trees. We're going to cover persimmon trees, peach trees, pear trees, apple trees, mulberry trees on the other side. I'm going to show you guys how to go ahead and trim those up as well. We're going to cover basically most of the fruit trees that we've got here on this property and how to go about pruning them, how to go about shaping them. Now, these trees have been in the ground for probably about 2 years, a little over 2 years now, and I've done very minimal pruning on them, guys. This is the time right now when I need to go through and I need to start shaping these trees. They're young still, they're not way oversized, but we want to build their shape, we want to build their structure for the future of their growth. That way they've got strong production. So stick with me, guys, and I'm going to show you guys how to go about doing that. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first tree that we're going to start on, guys, is this peach tree right here. This is a Florida King, and it's got a little bit of a weird structure going. I mean, you can see that it comes up here and it does the regular wine glass shape, right? And that's really what you want. You want them to come up and you want them to have this shape, but you don't want anything in the center. And you guys can see I've got quite a weird growth. Not only that, but you can see we've got good structure here, but then stand to the side here. Look at that, right? That is not a structure we want. And this whole tree is leaning off to the side. Now, granted, part of the issue there was that the hurricane came through and blew this sucker over just a little bit. So that's why we're dealing with this. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to do some corrective structuring on this tree. You can see it's grown up quite tall. And what's going to end up happening, guys, is we're going to squash this tree down, right? We're going to cut it down just a little bit. But we're also going to do some corrective pruning. And so what you want to do is right now, you know, I've got this branch here that pops out on the side. I want that type of branch. The issue is I don't want this type of branch that's coming up right in the dead center, and I really want a branch that's coming out to the side. Well, we've got one right here that's coming out to the side, and I could leave this one and allow this one to continue out this next season, and hopefully we'll correct some of that structure. But I'm really needing to leave some structure over here to fill this side out. We really want it kind of doing this where my hand is right here. So what we'll do is when we trim some of these branches, we know that we've got growth nodes and things like this one right here. And so what we would end up doing is we would cut a branch and we would leave a growth node that aims towards the area that we want it to grow. So that's what we're going to do here. And this one here is a tricky one, guys. I mean, it really is. I've got one branch down here that we don't want. We want to get rid of this one down here because it's just heading off on the side way down too low and way too much at a 90-degree angle. There's going to be a lot of weight on that branch eventually with fruit, and the more of an angle that it is flat, the more chance of it breaking off of the actual tree. And so what you want, guys, is really a 45-degree angle. And so this one right here, this is great, guys. It's coming out of the tree, and then it immediately begins turning up kind of at a swoop there. And that's kind of what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and set you guys down, and I'm going to start cutting on this tree. And you guys can watch the process as I go through it. I will try to speed it up so it's not so slow. But this one's going to be a weird one. We're going to get to some other ones that are going to have a lot more decent structure, a little bit easier to follow. And you guys can see what I do with those as well. But Yeah, this is gonna be an odd one. It's probably not gonna be until after this next season that we actually start getting the structure that I'm training it for. Because that right there, guys, that is a weird structure for a peach tree. So, but anyway, let me put you down and we'll start working on it. So one thing that I do want to show you guys is when you do go to trim off a branch. Now, I don't know if I'm going to trim off this branch for sure. I have an idea I'm going to end up trimming this large one here. But when you trim these peach trees, you make sure, now right here at the edge, that is what they call the collar, right? So you can see here where the tree comes up and there's almost like a little bit of a wrinkle right here that you can see. That is the collar of this branch. That's what's called the collar. And so what you want to do is you want to trim as close to that collar as possible without going into this main branch. And so what you're going to do is you're going to trim this branch off, but you're going to trim it and leave an angle of about 45 degrees on this. And the reason why is that way water and rain that falls down on it actually drips away from the trunk more than just down the trunk. And so that's the reason you do that. Now, the reason you also want to trim right up next near the collar is because if I was to trim this branch and leave this much of this branch on here, it's going to be harder for this main branch to heal over the top of this entire branch, therefore leading this opening susceptible to diseases for a long period of time. So we want to get as close to that collar as we can at a 45. That way, you know, we're only looking at maybe a season and a half for this thing to begin covering that wound with new growth. So So you guys can see here, I've been pretty dramatic on this tree. This one had some really bad structure to it. Honestly, this is my fault because I waited so long to prune this tree. But you can see the structure here on the side is not real good, guys. Again, we want that to come out this way. We want it to come out this way on all sides. We want this whole thing looking like a giant wine glass. Now, ideally, I would want to keep this branch that comes out, and I'd want to keep this branch that comes out and then start working that branch back up right here. And then I wouldn't want anything here in the center, right? I'd want another branch that came out this direction towards us that looked like these, and another one going out that direction that looks like these. But I'm gonna have to give this some time to grow back to be able to grow some branches that I will like the structure of. So you guys can see right now, I've done quite a number on this tree. It will be okay though. A lot of people are scared to prune their trees and they're afraid to hurt them or to do something that's gonna, you know, keep them from growing well. And one thing to keep in mind, guys, is this thing, I'm gonna show you this next season, but as it begins to leaf out, guys, this thing's gonna be thick. Like, it's just gonna grow branches and new leaves and all sorts of stuff all out of it. But this is the first step that I'm taking, guys, to pruning this and giving it some sort of a decent structure, because right now we've got none. There's absolutely horrible structure to this tree. So anyway, you can see we've taken several cuttings off of this thing. Now we just leave it and we wait for nature to correct it, and we will try again this next season to go ahead and give it some decent structure. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, guys. See if we can give you one that's a little bit easier to look at. All right, guys, so here's another peach tree. This one here is a red skin peach. And same thing, this thing grew a lot this last season. I didn't do a whole lot of structuring on it, so we've got this basically you know, martini glass, really thin, really narrow martini glass thing going straight up. And we really want that wine glass. We want it coming out like this. And so I'm gonna do quite a bit of cutting on this one as well. But I do have a lot more branches here to work with. So we should be able to get some decent structure out of this tree by the time we're done. So. All right, guys, so you can see that this was quite dramatic as well. But you can see we've got some branches down here that I really want to begin growing because they've got that structure that we're looking for coming out. Now, I do have a weird branch right here. And that branch is growing up basically in the middle of the tree structure, you can see. And I almost want to cut the whole thing off, but I may be able to save out this branch heading off to the side. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and leave it for this next season so that we can get an idea of what exactly is going to happen with the structure of this tree. And again, very dramatic, you guys. And I know that I'm doing this, and some of you guys are going to look at this going, Daniel, this is dumb. You are just annihilating your trees. If I let them continue growing the way that they are, I'm going to end up with a tree that has fruit way up in the top of the tree, and I'm not going to be able to get to it. Squirrels are going to get all of it. And I really want to maintain these at a shorter stature because I do plant so tightly. So all of our fruit trees, as you can see, are planted very close together. And so what I do is train them down to sort of some bonsai technique so that it keeps the tree smaller stature, but thicker branches and a little bit better structure to them. And so we do have an oddball right here, like I said. You know, this right here, honestly, if I did this the way that I think I should, and guys, it is going to be crazy, but I think I'm going to go ahead and do it. What I'm looking at here, and I'll just explain this to you. I see a branch here that I really like. I really like the structure of this branch. I also really like the structure of this branch because if you come around here, you can see that branch heads out at a beautiful 45-degree angle as well. I also come around here and I see a branch down here that comes out at a beautiful 45 degrees as well. That's one I want to keep. So I've got one going there, one coming towards me, and one going that way. Basically 3 branches that make perfect triangles on every section. The only one that's throwing me off, guys, is this massive branch right here. And as much as I hate to do it, I'm about to cut this branch off. And I know that seems nuts to some of you, but you're just going to have to trust me. You'll have to watch it next year and see what happens after I do this, guys. But I'm going to go ahead and cut this thing off. And if it makes you puke, guys, just don't watch because it's about to happen right now. So that's a lot of branch to cut off, guys, and I know that seems drastic, but this tree is going to have much better structure this next season. Once it grows out, it's going to start developing that wine glass shape, and basically the tree is going to put all of its energy into this branch, and then also this branch. And really those are the branches that I really want to put the energy into anyway, because that's going to shape the tree the way that I want it to grow. So these little branches that are on here, basically they have these little nodes that grow up in all different directions. So you've got one's going to head this way, one's going to head down, one's going to head towards me, one's heading towards you. So what I want to do is I want to come in and I want to trim these to where the branch that's left on it is going the direction that I want it to go. And so I'm going to go ahead and trim this right here, because that's going to leave that bud growing up this direction. And that's going to continue the wine glass shape that I'm looking for. Now the reason that I'm trimming all of the ends of all these branches, I'm nipping off the tips of all the branches, because the ends of these branches on every single plant, the end of the growth tip is actually releasing a hormone that tells all of the lower branches down here not to grow. It says, I've already got a lead. We're going to put all of our growth into this top tip so that I can head for the sky. That's how trees work. And so what I'm doing is I'm nipping off the tips of each one of these. That way that hormone's gone. And then the tree will disperse the hormone into other parts of the tree to go ahead and push out growth in lower portions of the tree, which is what I want right now, because I need to get that structure that I'm looking for. And right now I don't have it, so I need some new branches to grow down here on the bottom to complete out that structure that I'm looking for. But I think we've got this tree where I want it, guys. We are set for success in these next few seasons. And so now I just need to monitor it. Anytime that I get branches that grow here in the center of this tree, I want to remove those branches. I want to keep this whole area here open. And I want this tree to grow out into a wine glass shape and then head upward. Now, once we've grown upward a little bit and we're in that wine glass shape, I can allow these little spurs to grow up off of here, and we'll leave those, and that won't be a problem. And then we will begin trimming all of the branches that are aiming down. We don't want any branches aiming down on these either. So just to give you guys an idea of the method and what I'm looking for, but this one right here is ideal. This is set up exactly the way I want it, and the way I want it to begin growing to have a good structure. Shocking, I know, guys, but you can see here what I'm talking about. You see this wine glass shape I'm going for, and that's really what I want. And as I come around here, you're going to see that wine glass shape continues. See, we've got one coming off this direction, that direction, it still continues. So this tree is going to begin growing now that it's been structured correctly. And again, guys, this is my fault. The fact that I'm having to cut off so much wood right now, had I done this when I first planted the trees, and had I done it continuously through the process, you know, there would be a lot less to cut off right now, and it'd be less of a shock on me. The tree is going to be fine. There's not going to be an issue here. Now, there's a lot of talk about putting a covering over these, right? So you can see this is where I cut it off. And there's a lot of talk from people saying, you know, you need to put a covering over that, you need to paint that, you need to do something. But what I've found, guys, is I can cover this with some sort of a paint or a covering, but it really hinders the tree's ability to begin healing over this wound. And so I'm going to go ahead and leave it open. I am going to monitor it. If I ever get anything that starts trying to bore down into there, I'll have to fix that, and I'll have to monitor that and put a stop to that. But I'm just going to monitor this to make sure that it does begin to heal up properly. You can see I've left just enough here for this collar here not to be bothered at all. That way it can continue growing. But we will just keep an eye on that to make sure that everything heals up properly. All right, guys, let's move on to our next one. So the next one that I've got is our Sam Houston. And this one, you know, I'm pleased to tell you, we've already got pretty good structure on this tree. It's just going to be a matter of trimming it to keep this structure going. So you can see we've got a really nice branch growing off here. We've got a really nice branch growing off here. We even have a really nice branch growing in the back here off that other direction. And we've got one here that takes off in a wine glass form. So what I'm going to end up doing, guys, is I'm actually going to chop this entire center out of this thing. I'm going to take this whole center portion and remove it, because we've already got this bowl shape that's happening right here with all of these other branches. And those are the ones that I'm going to keep to continue my growth outward. I really don't want this tree to continue straight up in the center here. I want to open this center up. All right, guys, so this one turned out great. We had just enough on it to go ahead and give it the structure that we want to give it. And I know that I've gone down to some main branches here, and I know it looks quite sparse, but you can see here, basically we've got a branch that's coming off towards me here. We've got that branch that's heading off that direction, also at a nice 45-degree angle. And then we've got these other two branches off to the side that you can see are coming off at a 45-degree angle. So I've got a nice 4 main lead structure here. And so what I've done here though is I took this branch, and you can see I've still got some tiny ones on here that I need to get rid of. But on this branch here, I cleaned the entire thing up until I had a fan of these branches coming out. And this fan is now going to turn off, yes, it's going to have peaches on these, but it's also going to turn off growth off of each one of these. And they're spread out just enough that they're going to have growth, and none of the branches are going to impede the other branches. But we've opened up this entire center here, which is really what you want as far as the structure goes. So just I know the other ones were drastic and not really a lot of structure to them, but I just want you guys to see here, this is the structure that you're really wanting to begin with. So if you can get your trees down to this, no matter how much of a drastic trim you have to do to make it happen, you can see I pulled the whole center out of this. The center was growing up here, and that was really going to get in the way of this structure that we really want. And this is ideal right here, guys. This is really what you want. All right, guys, so this tree here is the June Gold. And definitely has a lot of different branches also for us to work with. So we should be able to get a decent structure started out of this tree. But first things first, guys, is I'm going to remove all of this top portion. We don't want any of these branches that are going straight up, right? So we've got this one that's heading straight up. We've got this one heading straight up. It's filling this center of this tree, and we really want this, again, as a bowl structure. I know I've said that multiple times, but you want that wine glass bowl structure opened up in the center. So I'm going to go ahead and remove. Now this tree has only been in the ground for 1 year. So I'm getting to this one a little bit sooner. Those other larger trees that had lost a lot of these lower branches because they had, like I said, with that hormone situation, the tree had decided, I'm going to start growing vertical. And so it put a lot of energy into these top branches that would have been removed had I pruned when I should have. And when it put all the energy into these top branches, the tree began to drop its lower branches because it no longer needed them. And so a lot of those lower branches that I would have used for good structure were gone because the tree said that I don't need them anymore. I'm heading for the sky. So again, that was my fault on those other trees, but we will correct it, because what's going to happen is now that we've pruned all of those top branches, all of that lower growth that you see here in this tree, all these little branches heading all over the place, will now begin to sprout out, and those will grow back to give that tree the growth that it needs. And I'll be able to structure it like this one is right here. But basically this one, we've got a whole bunch of center stuff. We need to go ahead and get rid of it. So let's go ahead and get started on that. I'm gonna go ahead and make a drastic cut just to begin with. And we're gonna go ahead and we may cut more out of the center later, but let's just go ahead and start with this one right here. All right, you can see that's already given us quite a head start here on the structure of this tree. We've already opened up this center. This whole center is open in here. So now we really need to figure out which of these branches that we want to be our lead branches that are going to remain for the life of the tree. And so what we want to do is we want to go through and look for the strongest branches, right? So I do have a smaller branch. I don't know if you can see it right now, but it is heading out 90-degree angle. I really don't want that one. We do have a strong branch here. We've got a strong branch here. We've got a strong one here and a strong one here. the issue is that these three branches, let me get you over here on top so you can see. Let me show you from the top what I'm seeing here. If you look straight down into the top of this tree, the branches that I was just showing you, there's one that heads here. There's also a really nice branch over here. And then there's a branch that's right over here that's strong. But we do have this branch right here. But you can see that these two branches, stop Tucker, these two branches in the structure of the tree are actually too close together. I don't need them that close together. And so if I want to spread them out, you can see that this branch here, this branch down here, and this branch here are evenly gapped, guys. We've got a nice triangle here. We've got a nice triangle here. And we've got a nice triangle here. So you don't want to put too much weight on the tree in one general area. So we've got a branch here. We've got a branch here that's a couple inches lower. And we've got this branch here that's about at the same spot. And we really want to spread those branches out over the spaces of our trunk, because if we've got three branches coming off the exact same spot in the trunk, when it gets overweighted with fruit, that entire main branch could split. All right, guys, so let me get you up here close so you can see. Now, I know I originally talked about these three branches, and you can kind of see them a little bit better now. You can see that there's one down here in the bottom, there's one here, and there's one here. And they've kind of got this Y shape, and it's perfectly symmetrical with the tree. However, when I got to looking at those three branches, if you look at the three of them, you can see them right here. You can see that they're all on the same collar around this tree, which means as the weight of the fruit on them, I said, you know, it could split that trunk if it gets too heavy, and I really don't want to end up in that situation. So I went ahead and left several of these other branches on here. Now, if you look down through the middle of this tree, you'll see that you've got three of them kind of clustered up here, and they're spread out throughout the branches. But you can see that they head off in different directions, right? So what I've done is I've left multiple branches here that do kind of head off in different directions. And I've done that just so in the future of this tree, I can choose one of these. I really want 3 or 4 of them that I'm going to keep. So now what I want to do is correct the structure of them to head. So if this one has this bud that's right here, that's heading off this direction, if I can train this bud to head off here in this open spot, I may be able to utilize that one and then cut off this portion because it'll have a branch that grows this direction. So you can correct the structure of your tree as it grows, guys, but you can see I've opened up the center here. Let me get back just so you can see. We have definitely got this sort of a wine glass shape to this tree right now. I've left a lot more branches on here than I usually would. But that will allow me to have some choices this next season on which ones I really want to keep and which ones I don't. And this is a younger tree. And I want to go ahead and cut this branch, but I want to do it in a way to where the top growth bud is going the direction I want it to grow. This one's going down. You can see this one here is actually heading up a little bit, and that's really what I want. I want it to head up just slightly. So I'm going to cut right here above that one. So now the first growth bud that's going to get any sort of hormone to begin growing is going to be that one right there. And so it'll begin growing upward on that spot. Well, guys, I know that was difficult. It's really difficult for me to be able to get it to where you can really see what's going on, but I hope that this has helped to some degree. I hope there's been some information in here that will help you cut your peach trees. If nothing else, guys, to not be afraid to prune them. So many people that I've talked to are so afraid of pruning their trees, and they just let them grow and grow and grow, and then, you know, 3-4 years down the road, you've got a bunch of diseased wood on there. You've got the tree dropping branches all over the place that it doesn't need. You've got trees that are rubbing on each other, and they end up getting peaches from their trees, but the peaches are small, and there's like, sometimes there's thousands of them, and they're itty bitty, so you don't get really good fruit. And then sometimes they just don't taste very good, guys. And if you will prune your trees, trees benefit from pruning. If you'll prune them, it stimulates them to grow new growth, guys. And on that new growth is where you're going to get flower buds, where you're going to get more peaches. And so one thing to keep in mind, though, is if you've got larger peach trees that are already actively fruiting, if you prune them in this way, and I don't mean super drastic like I had to do with a couple of these peach trees, but if you do end up pruning them and you prune them down to a certain size, what you're going to find is that this next season you're going to have a lot larger fruit on your tree, because it's able to send a lot more of that energy that's coming from the root system that was sustaining a larger tree with a lot more branches. Now all that energy is going to go into the branches that you've left on the tree and the fruit that it's going to begin producing. So keep that in mind as well. But I really hope this has helped you guys. It's really difficult, I know, to see what's going on, but I just wanted to show you guys and get the main gist that it's supposed to be a bowl. It's supposed to be a wine glass shaped bowl with an open center, and you want to pick several lead branches that are not touching each other, that are spread out evenly around the tree, and to get that tree started off correctly. So if you miss any of our videos, guys, it's probably because you haven't hit the subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell on there, so you'll see all the rest of our videos that come out. I am going to be doing some follow-up videos that are going to be along the same series. We're going to be pruning some plum trees, we're going to do some apricot trees, some apple trees, some pear trees, some mulberry trees. We're going to do all sorts of stuff like that as well. So go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of those as well. Guys, if you know anybody that could use some help with their pruning or anything like that, guys, go ahead and hit the share button. Get this out there to anybody else that you know that could use this information. And if you liked the video, guys, or if you didn't like the video, hit the like button. If you didn't like it, guys, put a comment down in the bottom on how you think that we could do it better, how we could instruct better. If you found it difficult to follow this pruning for the peach trees, guys, if you have any ideas on how to make it easier for you to understand and easier for you to see what's going on, or if there's any specific things that you'd like to see about the pruning process that I didn't show on there, guys, if you would put a comment down into the comment section letting me know, and I will do my best to make it a lot easier to help you guys in instruction, and if I need to clarify on a few things, I will do so. But anyway, thank you guys for following. Thanks you for watching the Markham Gardens. I appreciate having you along. Anyway, love you guys. See you in the next one. Shalom under the dome.